All right. Now, I've already put up a baccarat model on the channel, which hopefully at least one other person will have had a look at. And it seems only fair that I should also put up a model dealing with blackjack outcomes. Blackjack has always been my favourite game. I've been playing it in various forms since I was about 10 in a prep school in rural southern England a long time ago. And anyway, I should explain what's in front of you right now. And what it is basically is it's a kind of it's a nonsense in a way, because the vast majority of gamblers have no interest at all in the numbers behind the games that they try to beat. And I think the reason for that is that there's not much excitement or thrills in drilling down into the realities of these games, because there's no good news to be found. Obviously, because they all have a house advantage built into them, as they must, or there'd be no incentive for casinos to offer the games in the first place. You know, because of that harsh reality, people are just used to losing. It's just sort of it's what they expect, and I have always believed it's what most of them want. I mean, here's this thing over here, this gamblers gamble to lose and players play, and that's a simplification. I recognise that. But one of the things that, please forgive me for coughing and spluttering, I really can't help it. If you look at this nasty red line here, what this does is illustrate very dramatically that however lucky you might think you can be, in the long term, you are going to get your backside kicked. That's just how it is. And this is, you know, sort of like, you know, you see this the win to loss kind of sum. It goes positive for a little bit in the player's favour, and then reality sets in, and we're looking at down, 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 down. Over here, or above that chart, you've got another nasty reality, and that is that I've got an algorithm which is playing pattern betting against all of these outcomes. Pattern betting doesn't have the human option to walk away from a shoe it doesn't like. So we're going to see some pretty awful volatility from time to time. And here's an example of that. I mean, like the total loss here. We went 984,000 into the red before pattern betting pulled us out. I'm not suggesting for a moment that that's something that everybody can afford, that even a minute percentage of people can afford. The problem that I have with these models is an obvious one, and that is that the algorithm has to play everything, regardless. But what I'm trying to do with the models is to simply examine the realities behind the games that we enjoy playing so much, to see if we can find a way to consistently reverse the house advantage. And to do that, we can't change the realities of the house winning more bets than it loses, or in other words, us losing more bets than we win. There's nothing we can do about that. That's just built in, that's baked in to the games. What we can do is bet in such a way, and a lot of you will be, or all 3 or 4 of you will be familiar with this if you've watched any other demos. You have to bet in such a way that you win more when you win than you lose when you lose. So we're looking at a kind of a broad brush situation here. The exposure, the actual exposure, was 308, roughly 380,000. Because when we went down into this deep, deep, deep red hole here, we were very nicely ahead. You can't see these drop downs because this is a less than perfect screenshot program, and even it's not letting me see them now. Come on! Okay, so we were 300,000 ahead before we dropped all that way down. And what I'm going to do here is just scroll down so that you can see, what the picture is. I hope I'm not going too fast. Maybe I should do page by page, because then it enables us to look at just one example of the way things are. When you look at the numbers in these games, here we had a nasty run. We got hit by a volatile stretch, and we went 245,000, 246,000 in the hole before patterns saved the day, and we came out and we ended up with a profit. But the thing to look at here is win-loss patterns. Red obviously is house wins, green also obviously is player wins, and you'll see that it was not a great situation for the player. But let's see, down the bottom somewhere there should be a number that tells us how we did in that particular set. Okay, so we won 84,175 on total action of 676,000, which is 12.4% of our total action. Now, you ask any mathematician what a house advantage means, and they'll say to you something like, well, if you're playing a game with a 1.5% house advantage, then over time you can expect to lose 1.5% of your bankroll, of your total action. That's an absolute ridiculous simplification, and it just completely ignores human nature, the way that people bet, the way that they get frustrated, the way they get angry, the way they get drunk because they're stupid enough to accept so-called free cocktails, which are actually the most expensive drinks found anywhere in the world. Now here's another one. We went down from a nice number up here to 25,000 to 27,150, and then the day was saved by the predictability of patterns. And here's the win-loss graph chart, which shows us lots of player bursts and lots of mean streaks, which are these red ones here. And again, we go down below and we will see that we won in that particular block. We won 11,700, which was 8.1% of our action. In fact, there was a player edge in that particular data set of 5.6%. So the prediction could be, okay, we'll take that total action and multiply it by the actual value percent. That's the 5.6% there. The win should have been, according to these brilliant mathematicians, should have been 8,070. We actually managed 11,700. So, and here again, we went down and then we went up, and here are the sort of the ups and downs, as you might call them. And next one, I'm a little bit ahead of myself with these things, because you get the charts up there, right, which look horrible, and then you come down here and you get the actual outcome for that particular set. So here we win 11.1% of our total action. We collect 20,000. I got hiccups, not because I'd been hitting the bottle, but because I had a very large salad, and I had a cousin years ago who always used to say, I can't eat salad because it gives me gas. Well, I sometimes burp a little when I eat a lot of greens, but then I feel so much better for doing it, so there we are. And that's something you probably did not need to know. But anyway, here we've got more volatility, which was dealt with by the pattern betting strategy. Here you see a situation where quite clearly the house was ahead of us, but we had enough little bursts of player wins to turn us around over and over again. And then we come down here and we find that the house edge in that data set was nearly 33%, but we won 25%, 11,450 total action 45,275, blah blah. Now I have to deal with the fact that by and large on the internet, an audience which is blown away by the likes of Vegas Matt and Mr. Hanpei and Brian Christopher, these slot machine players, an audience that loves to watch that nonsense, is not interested in any kind of numbers about the perils of gambling. They just don't care. They're nuts. That's all I can say. Here we had a 24% win of our action. We had a house advantage. We had a player advantage there anyway of 4.3%. So the expected or indicated win is 1,000 here, but over here we actually won 5,650. And this stuff matters, you know, it really does. But I have to accept most people just don't give a shit. You know. Anyway, enough of that. I mean, I don't mean to sound like a moaning Minnie. I may be, but I don't mean to sound that way. It's just that I know from all the years that I've been trying to do this, that however hard I try to make people understand that random betting against random outcomes is idiocy, suicide, stupid, half-baked, half-witted, whatever, you know, they don't care. Because ultimately the vast majority of gamblers gamble to lose. They expect it, and worse than that, they want it. To the point where when they win, they start to bet even more stupidly, and then they lose. You know, walking away a winner is a tricky thing to do. And one of the greatest things about this pattern betting, progressive betting strategy is that every time you meet your target, you go back to a minimum bet. You'll see that in all of these things. If I scroll down here, you know, I mean, look at this. This was a horrible one. We had to go all the way up to 9,000. We finally ended up winning, oh, not very much, but we won. And we went back, we bet 1,000, and then we went back to 25. Now, lots of people will say, well, you couldn't possibly do that. You couldn't bet 1,000 and then your next bet is 25. Yes, you can do that, and you must. If you want to make money in those casinos that you dream about, love to watch people playing in, and all that sort of thing, you have got to follow a strategy which says, okay, I won that little battle, that skirmish, that little succession of losses that could have bankrupted me and should have bankrupted me, but I came out ahead. Now I go back and I start from scratch, back to a minimum bet. And you just keep on doing that. And here in this column, column O, this is the bankroll. And every time you see a dark green cell like that, that means that it's hit a new max. Oh, that was a really shitty one that we just passed up on there. That was really nasty. And then we end up betting 120,000, which of course I understand and completely accept and agree. The vast majority of people can't play like that. But we're talking about basically looking at something in a big picture way, where we can see how the numbers can be manipulated given an enormous bankroll, a strategy that works, and play that is completely confident in the ability of the strategy to get us out of a shitty situation. I mean, in this one here, for instance, the final win was 69,900. This number here in column J is how far ahead of us the house was, and at the end, when we ended up with money in the bank, they were still 7 bets ahead of us. So what we did, of course, there is what we're supposed to do, which is we won more when we won than we lost when we lost. And if you don't bet progressively, and if you don't follow rules pretty much like this, and I've always said, hey, somebody out there probably has a better strategy than this one, but this is the only one that I've developed, and which obviously I feel is viable and successful, workable, doable, all of those things. I know that there are people out there who make fortunes playing blackjack for a living. Quite obviously, they're doing something other than betting like a prat, like bless his cotton socks, Jason does, Mr. Handpay, when he's playing. I mean, he calls it tilt. You know, he just goes mad, and he can afford it because Google is paying him, you know, sort of, I don't know, 60, 70, 100,000 a month or more. You know, so he can afford to lose a little bit, and he can afford to be an idiot for the sake of entertainment, for the sake of getting those clicks. But you know, anyway, here's another one. Really shitty, mostly red. Then suddenly we get this winning streak here, and we don't actually need winning streaks of that length. We don't want them, you know, because it's a waste of wins. The ideal for us is if we don't get more than 3 wins in a row at any time, and then we fall into the hole with a succession of with a mean streak, if you like, and then we've got the bets high enough to give us a decent profit when we turn around, and then all we need is 2 or 3 wins in a row again, and boom, we're out of trouble. So let's go back down here, and this one was another dramatic one where we were at 95,000 ahead, and then we dropped to only what, 25,000 ahead. So that was nasty. And then we come down here and have a look at how we did there. Oh, that was the one with 8.1% and 5.6. So we came out all right out of that. So let's go back to the top anyway. Up there you'll see we're at 13.6% of that's a hold, to use the casino term, of total action. Total action is 2.3 million there. Our win of 315,000 is 13.6% of total action. Here is a summary of all of the sessions that went before this one. This one is number 12, and all the others are listed here, and you can see just how great that was. Now, why is this one red, I wonder? I don't know. I obviously made a mistake. So anyway, there we go. So that's all right. Interestingly, there are no losers here, and sometimes the percentage against us was really pretty nasty. Let's move over this way a little bit. We had a player edge of 2.8%, a player edge of 3.6%, and then here in another block, a player edge of nearly 23%, but all the others were horrible. And this latest one, we're still at a house edge of 5.2%, which is 7 or 8 times expectations, so really nasty. Our total win, as I said, is therefore, you know, it's 10.6% overall, 13.6 or 14% as it's shown there, but some of the others were a lot less than that. There was a 4% there, 9%. So overall, it's 10.6% on average. I've got a thing in here where random bets are built in. So I just press the recalc button here, and it gives me another number. If you look underneath this Gambler's Gamble to Lose thing here, this little block, the top one is random betting. So I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You know, random betting just basically doesn't work. What I find interesting is that I've tracked the deck value, the count, throughout this set, and so then I played Professor Thorpe's method, which is, you know, you play, you know, if you've got a +5 deck value, which means the deck is rich in 10s, then you bet 5 units, and if it's +10 you bet 10 units, blah 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 blah. Professor Thorpe would be in the hole 12, nearly 13,000. The Manhattan method, the 2-1-2 method, which I put in here out of mischief really, is absolute garbage. It's madness. That would be 33,000, nearly 34,000 in the hole, and it just isn't even worth thinking about. But let's go over a little bit. Oh, this is something that I keep in here just to remind us of how impossible the odds are that we're up against. Slot machines, for instance, the overall house edge, this is the win percent or the house edge column. Overall, it's 7% in the house's favour on slot machines. The one centres are the worst for players at nearly 10%. And then what's the lowest? The $1, which I always like to play. The $5 ones now are the lowest percentage, 5%. But the multi-denomination ones are 6.5%, overall 7%. You know, so these guys telling us that they're making money out of slot play, it's just crap. You know, I mean, how ridiculous. But they expect us to swallow it. They really do. Oh, this is a representation of the performance of the 2-1-2, and I can't even remember what the method is now. But I know I had to give it a pretty high minimum in order for it to qualify for a chart. So it went ahead to it went up 27,500 at one point. But it just, I mean, look at this, just a continuous fall. Then a little bit of a leap here, went from, what, 41,500 down to 10,500 up, and then to more than 30,000 down. What's this last one? 34,000. You know, I mean, give me a break. And over this way, what have we got? Something that really matters, I think, is I did track positive and negative and neutral card counts, deck values. Positive deck values lost nearly 280,000. Negative deck values, the bets against negative bet values won 816,000. Neutrals were also crap, a loss of nearly 250,000. Thorpe, as I said before, lost 12,650, and the Manhattan system, as they call it, 2-1-2. I can't even remember how it works. I don't care. It's rubbish. But whatever it is, lost 34,000. So you know, this is what makes me suspicious of card counting. I look at that and I think, well, wait a minute. You know, I've got no axe to grind about card counting, but it's quite clear. Positive deck values, the bets while there was a positive deck value lost 280,000 damn nearly, while there was a negative deck value which should be against us, we won 816,000, and neutral, which should have been sort of like, I don't know, shouldn't have hurt us much, another 250,000 in the toilet. So, you know, but for all of you out there, you know, all I can say to you is do your own thing. You know, don't take my word for anything. I've shown you what the strategy is. It's about as simple as it can get. You know, you lose the first, lose the second, lose the third bet, then, you know, and you double after the first lot, lost double after the second, after the third, you drop or you quit. If you're playing Baccarat where you don't, and you're at a table where they don't make you bet every round, then don't bet until a win trigger comes along, which is exactly what it sounds like. You wait for a win, and I prefer to back player all the time because I don't like commission. Wait for a player win, then bang, get in there. Try and win your money back as fast as you possibly can. And again, after 3 losses, drop or skip. Up to you. But all I can do is just put this information in front of you all, and if you ignore it, well, you have that right. I'm not spoon feeding anybody, I'm not charging anybody for anything, I'm not selling anything, I'm not, you know, all I'm saying is random betting, and just think about it, you know, because it's logical. Random betting against random outcomes is dumb, okay? And as I said recently in one of my blog posts, it's like playing whack-a-mole with your eyes shut. It's just not going to work for you. So there we are. I'm going again, and I've no doubt I'll be back.